What do you call this as a robbery?
Any of you f***ing pricks move!
It changed cinema forever, and it almost never got made. Pulp Fiction wasn't just a movie. It was a pop culture earthquake that rewrote the rules of Hollywood storytelling. Behind the iconic dance, the mysterious briefcase, and Tarantino's razor-sharp dialogue lies a trove of bizarre, unbelievable truths. From casting chaos to near disasters on set, here are 25 weird facts about Pulp Fiction you probably never knew. Number 1. The famous heroin overdose shot was actually filmed backwards. One of the most unforgettable moments in Pulp Fiction, Mia Wallace's near-fatal heroin overdose, was actually a clever cinematic illusion. The shocking scene, where John Travolta's Vincent Vega jabs a giant syringe of adrenaline straight into Uma Thurman's chest, wasn't filmed the way audiences think. Director Quentin Tarantino, ever meticulous about visual control, had Travolta pull the syringe out instead of plunging it in. The footage was then reversed in editing, making it appear as if the needle was forcefully driven into her heart. This ingenious reversal ensured absolute safety for Thurman, while allowing Tarantino to achieve the raw, visceral realism he wanted. The reversed motion gave the puncture, blood spurt, and Thurman's jolt of life an almost hyper-real sharpness. Combined with frantic editing, tense music, and Travolta's panicked energy, the trick produced one of the most iconic, nerve-wracking scenes in 1990s cinema. A perfect mix of illusion and authenticity that defines Tarantino's filmmaking style. Quentin wrote most of the script in Amsterdam, and Finais head it with a typist in L.A. Quentin Tarantino has often said that Pulp Fiction was born out of a kind of creative exile. He spent several months living and writing in Amsterdam, where he crafted most of the script in cafes and rented apartments, surrounded by the city's blend of grit, art, and international culture. That cosmopolitan environment shaped the movie's eclectic, jump-cut storytelling, a mix of street slang, pop culture philosophy, and pulpy violence filtered through a worldly lens. Tarantino later returned to Los Angeles, where he finished the screenplay with the help of a typist named Linda Chen, who helped him assemble and polish the dense, non-linear draft. The process mirrored the movie's structure: fragments written in Europe, finalized in America, stitched together with precision and chaos. The result was a screenplay that felt both global and deeply personal, fusing European art house sensibilities with raw American pulp. In many ways, Amsterdam's influence gave Pulp Fiction its rhythm, a film that feels as if it's been written by a man watching the whole world through a jukebox and a window overlooking a foreign street. Number 3. The movie revived John Travolta's career and led to an Oscar nomination. By the early 1990s, John Travolta's star had dimmed. Once a box office sensation from Saturday Night Fever and Grease, he had drifted into forgettable roles and near obscurity. Then came Quentin Tarantino, who saw in Travolta something Hollywood had forgotten: coolness with soul. Casting him as Vincent Vega, a laid-back, heroin-using hitman with a philosophical streak, turned out to be one of Tarantino's most inspired decisions. Travolta infused the role with deadpan charm, odd grace, and unexpected vulnerability, transforming what could have been a cliché gangster part into a cultural phenomenon. His dance scene with Uma Thurman instantly became iconic, and audiences rediscovered the magnetism that first made him a star. The performance earned Travolta an Oscar nomination for Best Actor, reintroducing him to a new generation and opening the door to major roles in Get Shorty, Face Off, and beyond. Pulp Fiction didn't just revive his career, it redefined it, proving that under Tarantino's direction, even a faded icon could be reborn as the coolest man in the room. Number 4. Royale with cheese lives on. It's a deliberate, tiny world cultural beat. Few lines in Pulp Fiction have lingered in pop culture quite like the now legendary Royale with cheese. In one of the film's most casually brilliant scenes, Vincent Vega and Jules Winfield cruise through Los Angeles, chatting about European fast food. Specifically how McDonald's Quarter Pounder is called a Royale with cheese in France because of the metric system. It's an exchange that seems trivial, yet it's quintessential Quentin Tarantino. Mundane conversation turned into cultural poetry. The moment humanizes the two hitmen, showing them as regular guys with random thoughts rather than cold killers. This playful attention to everyday detail became a Tarantino hallmark, grounding his ultra-violent world in a strange, relatable realism. Over time, Royale with cheese evolved into a cultural shorthand, a symbol of cool, conversational cinema and character-driven dialogue that rewrote how screenwriters approached small talk. The phrase appears in parodies, ads, and even menus, proving how a throwaway chat about burgers became one of the defining beats of 1990s film culture. Smart, funny, and irresistibly quotable. Number 5. The briefcase's contents are a true Tarantino MacGuffin, and its lock shows 666. One of the great enduring mysteries of Pulp Fiction is the glowing briefcase that Vincent and Jules retrieve for their boss, Marcellus Wallace. Its contents are never revealed. We only see the eerie golden light that spills out when it's opened, reflected in the awed faces of whoever looks inside. Fans have speculated endlessly. Some claim it holds Marcellus's soul. Others think it's gold bars, diamonds, or even the stolen treasure from Reservoir Dogs. Adding fuel to the fire is the briefcase's combination code, 666, the biblical number of the beast, which only deepened the mythic aura surrounding it. But Quentin Tarantino has always dismissed these theories, insisting it's nothing more than a MacGuffin, a classic Hitchcockian device that drives the plot without needing explanation. What matters isn't what's inside, but how characters react to it. The glow symbolizes temptation, power, and mystery, fitting themes for a movie about fate and consequence. In true Tarantino fashion, the unanswered question became part of the film's legend, ensuring that even decades later, fans are still arguing over what could possibly shine that bright. Number 6. Uma Thurman wasn't Miramax's first pick for Mia. Tarantino convinced her over the phone. Uma Thurman's unforgettable turn as Mia Wallace almost didn't happen. When casting Pulp Fiction, Miramax reportedly wanted a more conventional star. Names like Meg Ryan, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Isabella Rossellini were floated. But Quentin Tarantino had a different instinct. He saw something uniquely magnetic in Thurman, an aloof elegance mixed with unpredictable energy that perfectly fit Mia's dangerous allure. Yet Thurman herself wasn't convinced. After reading the script, she hesitated, unsure about its tone and the drug-heavy content. That's when Tarantino famously called her and personally read the entire Mia Wallace part to her over the phone, pouring his passion and vision into every line. His persistence worked. Thurman accepted, and the collaboration became one of cinema's most iconic director-muse partnerships. The role transformed her career, earning her an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress, and turning Mia, with her jet-black bob, cigarette, and dance floor mystique, into an enduring symbol of 1990s cool. Tarantino's insistence proved prophetic. Only Thurman could make Mia Wallace both deadly and heartbreakingly human. Number 7. The film was shot for about $8 million and grossed roughly $214 million worldwide. When Pulp Fiction hit theaters in 1994, few expected a gritty, dialogue-driven crime film from an indie director to become a global phenomenon. Quentin Tarantino and producer Lawrence Bender made the movie for around $8 million, a modest sum even then, with much of the budget going to its impressive ensemble cast, including John Travolta, Samuel L. Jackson, Uma Thurman, and Bruce Willis. The rest was stretched across stylish sets, iconic music, and Tarantino's meticulous attention to detail. Despite its indie roots under Miramax, the film exploded far beyond expectations, earning roughly $214 million worldwide. Critics hailed it as a revolution in modern cinema, a movie that proved independent filmmaking could rival and even outshine big studio blockbusters. Its sharp dialogue, non-linear storytelling, and fearless energy resonated with audiences everywhere, from Cannes to multiplexes. Pulp Fiction didn't just make money, it changed the landscape, inspiring a wave of indie filmmakers who saw that bold vision and character-driven storytelling could be wildly profitable. What began as a small, stylish gamble became one of the defining cultural and financial triumphs of the 1990s. Number 8. The adrenaline resuscitation scene inspired real-world debate about medical accuracy. The infamous adrenaline shot scene in Pulp Fiction, where Vincent Vega plunges a syringe into Mia Wallace's chest to revive her from a heroin overdose, sparked years of real-world debate about its medical accuracy. Doctors, emergency responders, and film scholars have dissected the moment endlessly, noting that while it looks terrifyingly real, it's not how an overdose would actually be treated. Injecting adrenaline, epinephrine, directly into the heart is a dramatic exaggeration, a cinematic shorthand designed for maximum tension, not realism. In true Quentin Tarantino fashion, the sequence prioritizes storytelling over science, building unbearable suspense through performance, editing, and that legendary backward filming trick that made the injection look flawlessly convincing. Medical experts have since used the scene as both a pop culture reference and a teaching example, a vivid reminder of how movies shape public understanding of medicine. Despite its inaccuracy, many still consider it one of the most believable and iconic resuscitation scenes ever filmed, a perfect blend of shock, style, and sheer cinematic adrenaline. Number 9. Tarantino's non-linear structure was a deliberate homage to pulp magazines and crime fiction. The famously non-linear structure of Pulp Fiction wasn't just a stylistic quirk, it was Quentin Tarantino's loving homage to the gritty pulp magazines and crime anthologies he devoured growing up. Those mid-20th century digests, packed with hard-boiled detectives, gangsters, and femme fatales, often told stories in short, fragmented bursts rather than straight chronology. Tarantino adopted that same rhythm, crafting Pulp Fiction as a series of interconnected vignettes. Vincent and Jules's hitman tale, Mia Wallace's chaotic night out, and Butch's violent escape, all shuffled and reassembled like pieces of a lurid comic book. This fractured timeline forces viewers to engage with cause and consequence out of order, turning moral judgment and narrative payoff into a puzzle. The result was revolutionary, an indie film that felt both nostalgic and avant-garde, echoing the serialized pulp tradition while reinventing modern storytelling. By breaking linearity, Tarantino made the ordinary feel mythic and the violent feel poetic, transforming his affection for old crime paperbacks into a cinematic form all his own. Number 10. Christopher Walken's Watch monologue came from a single line in the script, but he made it unforgettable. Christopher Walken's unforgettable Gold Watch monologue in Pulp Fiction began as just a brief note in Quentin Tarantino's script, a small story beat meant to explain why Butch Coolidge, played later by Bruce Willis, treasures a family heirloom. But in Walken's hands, that single line blossomed into one of the film's most haunting and darkly comic moments. As Captain Coons, a weary Vietnam veteran visiting young Butch, Walken delivers a rambling, oddly tender monologue about the gold watch that passed through generations, and, infamously, through a very uncomfortable hiding place. Tarantino's writing gave it bite, but Walken's peculiar rhythm, halting pauses, and mix of sincerity and absurdity transformed it into a masterclass in storytelling. The scene walks a perfect line between tragedy and grotesque humor, capturing the strange humanity that runs through all of Tarantino's work. For many, it's one of Walken's defining performances. Just a few minutes of screen time, yet utterly unforgettable. The Gold Watch speech proved that even in a movie full of gunfights and adrenaline, the quietest, strangest confession could steal the entire film. Number 11. The cast included actors Tarantino had long admired. and some were late additions. The cast of Pulp Fiction is now legendary, but assembling that perfect mix of stars and oddballs was a careful balancing act by Quentin Tarantino. He wanted performers he'd admired for years, actors with distinct rhythms and strong personalities, and he wasn't afraid to take chances on those Hollywood had overlooked. John Travolta, once written off as a relic of the 70s, was a bold choice for Vincent Vega. Samuel L. Jackson, though not yet a household name, brought volcanic energy that turned Jules Winfield into an instant icon. Bruce Willis, fresh off his action hero image, added grit and wounded pride to Butch, while Harvey Keitel, one of Tarantino's earliest champions, anchored the chaos with understated authority as the Wolf. Even Christopher Walken's one-scene cameo became unforgettable. Some roles nearly went to other big names. Michael Madsen, Gary Oldman, even Daniel Day-Lewis were floated. But Tarantino's final ensemble was lightning in a bottle. Their chemistry, timing, and contrasting styles created a kind of cinematic jazz. Improvised yet precise, cool yet combustible. Together they gave Pulp Fiction its pulse, a movie that felt alive in every frame. Number 12. The diner, prologue, epilogue was added to give the film a moral frame. The opening and closing diner scenes in Pulp Fiction, featuring Pumpkin and Honey Bunny plotting their chaotic robbery, are far more than quirky bookends. Quentin Tarantino added them deliberately to give the film a moral and structural frame, transforming what could have been a loose anthology into a thematically unified whole. The film begins with their impulsive plan for a simple stick-up, then abruptly cuts away to the other stories: Vincent and Jules's hit, Mia's overdose, Butch's escape, before returning to the diner in the finale, where those threads quietly converge. This circular design gives the film emotional and philosophical resonance. By ending on Jules's redemption arc, as he spares Pumpkin and Honey Bunny after declaring he's trying real hard to be the shepherd, Tarantino closes the film not with violence, but with transformation. It's a moment of grace amid chaos, a moral heartbeat that redefines everything that came before. The diner framing turns Pulp Fiction from a series of cool crime stories into a complete cinematic argument about fate, choice, and redemption, all unfolding over breakfast and bad coffee. Number 13. The Elvis-imitating Jack Rabbit Slim's Twist contest was shot with a tiny crew on a tight schedule. The Jack Rabbit Slim's Twist contest remains one of Pulp Fiction's most iconic and joyful moments, yet behind its effortless cool was an incredibly tight production. Quentin Tarantino shot the entire sequence with a small crew and a limited schedule, making every setup count. The set itself was a marvel, a meticulously built shrine to 1950s Americana, filled with neon, vintage cars turned into dining booths, and celebrity lookalikes playing Elvis, Marilyn, and James Dean. Against this nostalgic backdrop, John Travolta and Uma Thurman's dance felt both surreal and electric. Tarantino directed it with precision but without over-choreographing, letting the moment breathe as the two characters expressed chemistry through rhythm and restraint. Travolta's twist was also a sly nod to his own cinematic legacy, the disco king of Saturday Night Fever reborn in a seedy L.A. diner. The scene was filmed economically, but its cultural impact was enormous. With a few spins, finger snaps, and bare feet on the floor, Tarantino turned a low-budget shoot into one of cinema's most timeless, effortlessly cool sequences, a pure celebration of character, style, and pop nostalgia. Number 14. Tarantino and Roger Avary's script was famously dense with pop culture detail. The screenplay for Pulp Fiction, co-written by Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avary, is often hailed as one of the richest, most layered scripts ever produced, a masterclass in pop culture immersion. Every page bursts with hyper-specific references: European fast food quirks, forgotten TV pilots, surf rock records, B-movies, paperback crime novels, and obscure brand names that never existed outside Tarantino's imagination. These details aren't just decoration. They anchor the film's eccentric world in lived-in reality. Hitmen debate burgers and foot massages, boxers quote obscure philosophy, and gangsters talk like film buffs. Tarantino's obsessive attention to everyday minutiae gives the dialogue its rhythm and authenticity, while Avery's story input helped shape the interconnected structure that makes the film feel both sprawling and precise. This dense cultural layering rewards repeat viewing. Every object, poster, and casual remark hints at a story or influence. It's a cinematic collage of 20th century pop detritus, filtered through Tarantino's encyclopedic mind, where high and low culture collide. That texture became his signature: movies that talk, think, and breathe pop culture while transcending it entirely. Number 15. The briefcase's glowy light was a practical effect. An orange bulb. The glowing briefcase in Pulp Fiction, one of cinema's most haunting and debated images, wasn't created with any fancy digital trickery. The effect that has fueled decades of speculation was actually achieved through a simple practical light bulb. For the scenes where Vincent Vega and Jules Winfield open the mysterious case, the prop department tucked a small orange bulb inside, powered by a hidden battery. When the case was unlatched, it cast that warm, mesmerizing glow onto the actors' faces, making their expressions of awe and wonder completely believable. Quentin Tarantino wanted something immediate and organic, something that would feel tactile rather than artificial. The orange light gave the briefcase a hypnotic, almost supernatural presence, enough to make audiences project their own theories onto it, from gold bars to Marcellus Wallace's soul. It's a testament to Tarantino's old-school sensibility. With the simplest possible effect, he created a visual icon of mystery. That modest little bulb became a symbol of cinematic magic, proof that atmosphere and imagination can outshine even the most elaborate special effects. Number 16. The film won the Palme d'Or at Cannes in 1994, a huge indie accolade. When Pulp Fiction premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in 1994, it wasn't just another indie debut, it was a cultural detonation. Amid a wave of art house dramas and European prestige films, Quentin Tarantino's violent, witty, pop-fueled crime epic stood out like a jolt of electricity. The film's premiere stunned critics and audiences alike. Its mix of brutal humor, stylized dialogue, and non-linear storytelling felt unlike anything Cannes had ever hosted. When the jury, led by Clint Eastwood, awarded Pulp Fiction the Palme d'Or, the festival's top honor, it marked a watershed moment for independent cinema. The win instantly transformed Tarantino from a cult filmmaker to a global auteur and gave Miramax an art house triumph that crossed into the mainstream. Cannes catapulted Pulp Fiction from buzz to phenomenon, fueling massive anticipation for its U.S. release later that year. By the time it hit theaters, it wasn't just a movie. It was a movement, proving that bold, unconventional storytelling could dominate both the box office and the world's most elite film stage. That golden moment at Cannes cemented Pulp Fiction as the defining indie success of the 1990s. Number 17. The Wolf, Harvey Keitel, was modeled on classic fixer characters. Keitel's presence grounded that comedic crisis. Harvey Keitel's turn as Winston the Wolf in Pulp Fiction is a masterclass in how a small role can leave an enormous impact. Introduced at the height of chaos, when Vincent and Jules are covered in blood after an accidental shooting, the Wolf arrives like a force of calm authority. He's a modern spin on the classic crime movie fixer, the unflappable professional who cleans up disasters with ruthless efficiency and immaculate manners. Dressed in a tuxedo and speaking with clipped precision, Keitel embodies the archetype with effortless gravitas. His presence instantly grounds the absurdity, turning what could have been pure panic into a strangely comedic crisis. Tarantino plays the sequence like a screwball thriller, tense, funny, and weirdly elegant as the wolf barks orders and restores order. Keitel's history with Tarantino, he helped produce Reservoir Dogs, gave the scene extra weight, as if the filmmaker's mentor had stepped in to tidy up his cinematic mess. The character's speed, style, and deadpan humor make the wolf unforgettable, proof of Tarantino's gift for blending irony, adrenaline, and old-school cool in a single unforgettable burst of storytelling. Number 18. The film reintroduced older songs and made them iconic again. One of Pulp Fiction's most enduring legacies is how it revived forgotten music and turned decades-old tracks into pop culture anthems. Quentin Tarantino, a lifelong vinyl junkie, curated an eclectic soundtrack of surf rock, soul, and vintage pop that became inseparable from the film's identity. The pulsing energy of Dick Dale's Miss Arlu over the opening credits instantly set the film's tone, exotic, dangerous, and cool, while Chuck Berry's You Never Can Tell transformed the Jackrabbit Slim's Twist contest into cinematic legend. Elsewhere, songs like Dusty Springfield's Son of a Preacher Man and Kool and the Gang's Jungle Boogie re-entered popular culture as if newly released. Tarantino didn't just use music as background, he used it as character and storytelling, revealing mood, irony, and emotional contrast. His approach redefined how directors thought about film soundtracks, showing that the right song could elevate a scene into myth. After Pulp Fiction, record stores saw surges in sales of old surf and soul albums, and filmmakers began mining past eras for inspiration. Tarantino made nostalgia sound brand new, proving that music, like cinema, could be remixed into something timelessly cool. Number 19. Tim Roth and Amanda Plummer's short scene as Pumpkin and Honey Bunny bookends the film with a moral question. The brief but unforgettable appearances of Tim Roth and Amanda Plummer as Pumpkin and Honey Bunny frame Pulp Fiction, with a tension that's both explosive and strangely moral. In the film's opening diner scene, the couple chats over breakfast before impulsively deciding to rob the restaurant, a moment of chaotic spontaneity that mirrors the film's fascination with choice and consequence. When Tarantino brings them back in the final act, their stick-up collides with Jules Winfield's transformation, turning what began as comic absurdity into something unexpectedly spiritual. Roth and Plummer's performances, jittery, intimate, and unpredictable, are crucial to this emotional turn. Their chemistry makes the pair feel both foolish and frightening, embodying the blurred line between desperation and violence. By ending with Jules sparing their lives after his moral epiphany, Tarantino reframes the film's entire journey: redemption over revenge, mercy over mayhem. Pumpkin and Honey Bunny may only appear in 2 scenes, but their arc gives Pulp Fiction its circular moral structure, reminding viewers that even in Tarantino's violent universe, there's room for grace, irony, and second chances. Number 20. The 666 lock detail spawned scholarly and fan essays, and Tarantino plays coy about meaning. The mysterious briefcase in Pulp Fiction, locked with the code 666, has become one of cinema's most dissected props, an enigma that continues to fuel debates decades later. The glowing contents are never revealed, and that very absence of explanation became a masterstroke of storytelling. The lock's 666 detail, often interpreted as a sly reference to the biblical number of the beast, sent viewers and critics down endless rabbit holes. Was it a symbol of greed, evil, or perhaps the soul of Marcellus Wallace, as one popular fan theory insists? Scholars have analyzed the briefcase as a MacGuffin, a device that drives the plot while its meaning remains irrelevant. But others argue it's the film's moral centerpiece, representing temptation or sin itself. Tarantino, ever the provocateur, has refused to give a definitive answer, saying only that it's whatever the audience wants it to be. That deliberate ambiguity transformed a simple prop into a pop culture relic, inspiring essays, fan films, and classroom debates. By leaving the mystery unsolved, Tarantino ensured that Pulp Fiction would live not just as a film, but as a riddle that continues to fascinate. Number 21. Production used real Los Angeles locations and some clever set dressing to hide modern details. Pulp Fiction may feel like a stylized dreamscape, but much of its power comes from the raw authenticity of real Los Angeles locations. Tarantino and his production team deliberately avoided studio-bound artificiality, instead shooting in actual restaurants, apartments, diners, and pawn shops scattered across the city. These lived-in settings gave the film a tangible realism beneath its pulpy sheen. Yet the crew also had to outsmart modernity. They cleverly dressed contemporary L.A. streets to evoke a sense of timelessness. Neon signs were swapped, cars were selectively placed, and storefronts were repainted to strip away obvious 1990s markers. The result is a Los Angeles that feels both familiar and surreal. A melting pot of decades, styles, and subcultures. From the retro glow of Jack Rabbit Slim's diner to the grimy pawn shop where Butch's story takes a dark turn, every location reflects a layer of the city's mythic sprawl. Tarantino's L.A. isn't the Hollywood postcard, it's the underbelly, a collage of diners, motels, and anonymous side streets where fate, violence, and absurdity intersect. That subtle blend of realism and artifice anchors Pulp Fiction's tone, making it at once gritty, cinematic, and utterly timeless. Number 22. Tarantino cast against type to surprise audiences, e.g., Bruce Willis as the boxer. Quentin Tarantino's casting choices in Pulp Fiction were deliberately subversive, and none more so than Bruce Willis as Butch Coolidge, the weary boxer caught between survival and morality. By the early 1990s, Willis was typecast as the wisecracking, invincible action hero. Die Hard had cemented him as Hollywood's go-to tough guy. But Tarantino saw something deeper, a quiet intensity beneath the swagger. Casting Willis as a morally conflicted fighter past his prime was both a risk and a revelation. Butch isn't a superhero. He's a man trying to reclaim his dignity in a corrupt world. Through him, Willis shed his bulletproof persona and revealed vulnerability, fear, and conscience, especially in moments like his decision to return for Marcellus Wallace. Tarantino's knack for using actors in unexpected ways became one of his trademarks, breathing new life into familiar faces. Just as he revitalized John Travolta's career, his choice of Willis defied expectations and gave the film an emotional anchor amid its chaos. Butch's story, full of grit and redemption, reminded audiences that beneath the pop culture flash, Pulp Fiction was still deeply human. And Tarantino's offbeat casting instincts made that humanity hit even harder. Number 23. Several famous lines were ad-libbed or evolved during rehearsal. Many of Pulp Fiction's most unforgettable moments weren't rigidly scripted. They were born out of improvisation and experimentation during rehearsal. Quentin Tarantino, though known for his razor-sharp dialogue, gave his actors room to play with timing, tone, and movement, allowing scenes to feel organic and unpredictable. Lines like Samuel L. Jackson's chilling Bible monologue or John Travolta's offhand, bemused exchanges about Royale with cheese gained nuance as the actors explored their characters' voices and rhythms. Even small gestures, Travolta's shrugging dance moves, Uma Thurman's languid smirk, came alive in the moment, adding texture that can't be written on the page. Tarantino's rehearsal process encouraged spontaneity, often tweaking dialogue mid-scene to capture a more authentic rhythm or emotional punch. This looseness gave the film its naturalistic conversational energy, making the outrageous situations feel startlingly real. The result was dialogue that sounded both stylized and believable, full of pauses, stumbles, and quirks that mirrored real speech. By trusting his cast to experiment, Tarantino transformed rehearsed material into living, breathing performances that became part of pop culture's permanent vocabulary. Number 24. The film's title explicitly honors pulp magazines and the idea of recycled pop culture. The title Pulp Fiction is not just catchy, it's a statement of purpose. Quentin Tarantino chose it as a direct homage to the pulp magazines of the 1930s through the 1950s, those cheaply printed sensational anthologies filled with crime, sex, and hard-boiled heroes. The film doesn't just reference pulp culture, it embodies it. Every frame oozes with that same mix of grit, glamour, and dark humor that defined those lurid paperbacks. Tarantino takes the tropes of mid-century pop storytelling, gangsters, femmes fatales, redemption arcs, and sudden violence, and repackages them through the lens of 1990s postmodern cinema. The movie's structure, tone, and even dialogue celebrate recycled culture, not as theft, but as resurrection. Tarantino gleefully revives forgotten cinematic influences, film noir, grindhouse, B-movies, and television crime dramas. By doing so, he transforms cinematic trash into high art, proving that pulp storytelling could be stylish, emotional, and philosophically layered. The title is both literal and self-aware, a wink to audiences who recognize that Tarantino's genius lies not in inventing something new, but in remixing everything old into something wildly alive again. Number 25. Critics and audiences disagree, but the film's influence is indisputable. Few films have divided critics and audiences quite like Pulp Fiction, but even its detractors admit its impact was seismic. Upon release, it split opinion over its gleeful violence, dark humor, and moral ambiguity. Some hailed it as a cinematic revolution, while others saw it as dangerously flippant about brutality and human suffering. Feminist scholars and cultural critics have long debated its representation of women and race, while fans argue it's pure pop art, stylized, self-aware, and impossible to forget. Yet beneath the arguments lies one undeniable truth. Pulp Fiction changed the language of cinema. It redefined what an independent film could be: smart, stylized, commercially successful, and endlessly quotable. Its non-linear structure, deadpan dialogue, and retro soundtrack inspired a wave of 1990s imitators and opened the door for countless filmmakers to experiment with genre and tone. The way directors use music, pacing, and conversation in crime films today still echoes Tarantino's vision. Love it or loathe it, Pulp Fiction didn't just influence Hollywood, it rewired it, setting a new blueprint for cool, chaotic storytelling that remains unmatched 3 decades later. What do you think about these facts? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this, and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.